Um, Ravi, firstly, I thank Dalit Camera for giving me this space because we don't have NDTV or CNN, IBN, and the whole newspaper world. We don't have, so we have this little space because of Dalit Camera. So I thank you very much for giving me this space and also to express some of my views on this controversy. And first of all, I'm really upset at the way this whole discussion is taking place. I'm not upset so much about Ashis Nandy's comments, but I'm upset about the way that Dalits as a community, and including myself, are implicated in this discussion. First as corrupt people, then as people who are intolerant, then as people who have no sense of humor, in innumerable ways. Whenever they are discussing the issue, in this whole campaign to defend Nandi, they're really damaging the image of the community. So I'm really shocked at this. I'm really upset at this. And I've seen today's Hindu's editorial, and I was really shocked the way that they have been writing about it. To give you in some detail, one of the friends of Professor Nandi asked, Nandi said that SAST OBCs are sacred cows in this country. I am asking now, is Nandi a sacred cow? Dalits have been criticized, Dalits have been stereotyped, and Dalits are at the receiving end of many things. So they have not been sacred cows. They have not even been able to, reply in a strong manner to this whole campaign. You don't have people to write. You don't have the media to voice their concern. So they are not sacred cows. They have never been. But is Nandi a sacred cow? This is what I am asking. Is above criticism, or is our intellectuals above any criticism? Is Nandi infallible? And the whole discussion, if you follow from NDTV, then to CNN and IBN, I mean, those two programs are programs arranged to defend Nandi, and programs are completely kind of in agreement with what Nandi has said, and they are trying to totally defend an eminent intellectual. Just because he is an eminent sociologist, eminent intellectual, so will you justify whatever he has said? Will you not go into the details of what it exactly said? Will you not go into the responses of the communities which are at the receiving end? Will you not think of that? Just because he is eminent, just because he is a sacred cow, you don't want to discuss this? So I'm really puzzled by the number of commentators, mainly his friends and the TV commentators, trying to explain his own argument, trying to justify in the process, saying that he actually made pro-Dalit comments. So the pro-Dalit comments or anti-Dalit comments, they are debatable. But you are actually foreclosing any debate, foreclosing any discussion on the issue by saying that he is misunderstood. And what are they invoking? Though they are really kind of invoking a biography of Nandi to defend his remarks, saying that he has been a supporter of pro-reservation, he has been working on Dalits, he has written so much in favor of Dalits and OBCs and so on, which I have not seen what he has written about Dalits, and his position and his writings are open to different kinds of interpretations. I don't think his writings are pro-Dalit or pro-SCST and pro-OBC. So that is something that is debatable. Just to, in this context, invoke his own biography in this manner and his own writings, saying that they are idiosyncratic and they are known for humor and wit and so on and so forth. So this cannot justify what exactly happened in Jaipur Literary Festival. So you have to go into the merits of that, and just because saying that he is known for unconventional use, which may not be liked by others, it is not a simple matter of that. So Nandi has this corporate media, Nandi has a solidarity blog, Nandi has a solidarity petition, so a whole lot of things. But in this whole discussion, I did not see the Dalit view emerging very strongly. And nobody is thinking of what the Dalits are actually thinking about it. And in fact, I did not also see except one article in Kafila saying that Nandi's statements are wrong. It is only the Dalits who are strongly feeling that Nandi's statements are highly objectionable. even if he is saying that corruption leads to democracy and Dalits are most creative and good at corruption. So this is his argument, that Madhukoda is his model. But we don't have to emulate that. We don't have to accept that view. And our opinion has to be taken into consideration. I mean, he is making a comment specifying SC, ST, OBCs are the most corrupt people and they're creative people. And that leads to democracy. So we don't want this kind of a characterization to be seen. Some people may enjoy. If you are an elite, if you are an upper caste, you may enjoy this characterization of this. And you may say that he is actually attributing agency. He is not attributing what is called, he is not essentializing Dalit, but he is actually giving agency to Dalit. We don't want this false agency to Dalits as corrupt people. So finally, whatever the virtues of Nandi and his scholarship, so those cannot be used to justify what Nandi has said in Jaipur. And what Nandi has said in Jaipur cannot be justified on the grounds of freedom of speech versus censorship. So these are the only two things, that if you are asking that what you said is something wrong, that does this mean automatically it leads to censorship? So there are no other ways of thinking about whether what he said is right or wrong. So by invoking censorship, by invoking that these people are hooligans, these people are very intolerant, and these people are undemocratic. So you are actually not allowing a debate. In fact, most of the Dalit scholars and Dalit activists did not speak up because they are really intimidated. Because the kind of picture that you gave is that whoever says something about Dalits are going to come and break your head. And this is the kind of picture that you get, or they file a case under SC/ST Act. So you have been debating Dalits. They have not done this any time. So why are you kind of reproducing this image of the Dalit as the most intolerant people in this country? And you are not addressing what Nandi is saying. So this is my first point. Where is he hounded? This language of he is hounded, he is harassed. By whom? You are implying that by Dalits. So did they harass him? Did they hound him? So this is completely kind of producing a discourse of where you are actually criminalizing the Dalit in this entire discourse. It's a controversy created by him in an elite festival. The opposition also came from the people on the stage and elsewhere, not from the Dalits. Then it became a public kind of controversy. So it is your own controversy. But finally, you want to use this to actually make Nandi a great intellectual and a hero by doing all this. But in the process, the damage done to Dalit communities is very, very serious. So this is my first point. Those who are really supporting him, writing about him, they are only kind of talking about his greatness, his style of writing, his mode of reasoning, and how great this man is. But they are not really going into the details of what he actually said and what the communities which are named are feeling about it. This is the most important point, that what they are feeling, you are not thinking about that. And you don't care about that. You don't care about what the Dalits think about this. You don't care about this corporate media reproducing this view that Dalits are, SC/ST, OBCs are the most corrupt people. So reproduced again and again and again and again. And what is the damage done to these communities? Already we are a stigmatized community. Already we are seen as the most corrupt people. And that's the public view of this. So we have high visibility, as he himself noted. And then in this own new kind of a way of talking about corruption as leading to democracy and Dalits as being creative people. So you are doing greater damage than anyone else. This is my first point, Ravi.
So this is in relation to the Dalits have been portrayed in different discussions.
Yeah.
And especially 2-3 comments which you also skipped, you point out in the first discussion about the intolerance and maybe hooligans also in a way to say. And so that various other forms of discussions which happened in NDTV and Times Now and even CNN, IBN and other discussions also. So that how do you see this, the way they have been portrayed?
Ravi, as I already said, I think my main concern is that the way the SC/ST, OBC communities have been invoked, referred in this entire debate. One thing is what Nandi has said, Ashis Nandy has said in Jaipur, and what it meant. That is one issue. The second issue is that in this entire discussion, in his whole campaign to mobilize support for Nandi, so the way the Dalits are implicated, the STs are implicated, the OBCs are implicated, is also important for me. How are they described? SC/ST, OBCs are the most intolerant people. So the intolerant chorus of outrage of the SC/STs. That is how the description goes. And easily offended people. So there are people who are easily offended. So these people have been taking this offense and violence of all kinds for centuries. So they are seen as easily offended people. Whereas the other kinds of people, they are not easily offended. They are easily offended people. And these are people who are, these are called brokers of victimhood. And this maybe refers to the Dalit politicians and Dalit leaders, the brokers of victimhood and foot soldiers of identity politics, and people who are making political capital, people who are craving for publicity and so on. So this is the image of a community, people who have no sense of humor, and people who cannot understand creative modes of reasoning, a mode of reasoning that Nandi uses. So these are people, unreasoned people, and there is no reasoned debate possible. So this is the image of Dalits. Generally, in most of these secular kind of upper caste narratives, the figure of the Dalit always appears like this: is unreasonable, irrational, and sensitive, easily hurt, and intolerant. So this is a very, very damaging kind of. See, you have an incident happened. Some Dalit organizations protested, some Dalit leaders protested, but this whole discussion is actually stereotyping the Dalit community.
And
so,
only FIR was filed.
and one FIR was filed. So and saying that, and then the SC/ST Act is in some sense a very draconian act, and you are misusing that act, and that act itself is a kind of a serious problem. So I don't know what exactly they are saying. I mean, they are actually talking about the very institutions of democracy. And this whole kind of stereotyping of this community and calling them authoritarian is I thought, is one of the serious problems with this way this entire discussion is kind of. Not only that, Nandi makes this offensive, serious, objectionable comments. Not only he refused to apologize, he only clarified. This is very important. He went on to clarify. He and his friends have been clarifying, but he refused to apologize. He is only saying that if there is a misunderstanding and if you are hurt, I will apologize. He is not saying that this whole comment that the most people from the SC/ST, OBCs are corrupt. Even if he is saying that they are creative people, if the Dalits and Adivasis take offense, he has to apologize. He has to withdraw. Till now, he has not withdrawn. In fact, after he came from Jaipur to Delhi, he is so emboldened. Now he is saying that, yes, I will stand by what I have said. And in fact, he is saying he is pro-Dalit. He cannot interpret that as saying he is pro-Dalit or anti-Dalit. He cannot, decide that saying that SC/STs are the corrupt people and creative people is a compliment. So I don't take it as a compliment. I take it as seriously objectionable kind of comment. So in fact, many of these controversies, I'm really pained at watching all these controversies. On the one hand, the violence in the villages, and the kinds of things that happen in Haryana and elsewhere to Dalits, and everyday innumerable forms of violence and so on, and humiliations. On the other hand, you have this kind of a public discussion. Whatever is the controversy, the way Dalits are talked about as the most intolerant kind of people who are unreasonable, people who have no sense of humor, people who have to be given education in understanding either a textbook or a speech, and people who cannot hear. Somebody actually commenting that we have to learn how to listen to speeches and so on. So this I thought is the most objectionable kind of a campaign that that Professor Nandy and his friends are leading, and the whole liberal left intellectuals who signed these petitions. So they are leading this kind of a campaign, and they are saying that we are in solidarity with Nandy. Solidarity with what? Solidarity with whatever he has said. And they simply say that some people may not like. No, it is not a question of may not like. Some people may take objection. Some people may disagree. Some people may get offended. So you should be open to this. Just to say that some people may not like it, it's not a question of liking it. People can take objection to this. People can disagree. So you are not allowing, you are not trying to understand what this disagreement, how they are offended. So you are only saying freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, does it mean that you can say whatever you want? Are there no limits to freedom of speech? Does the Dalit has freedom of speech? No, in this, so this is, I think, one of the important points I want to make. That when you are talking about a specific incident, about Nandy and his speech and its meanings, interpretations, in your own discussions, in your own petitions, you are implicating me and the larger community. And you are further kind of stereotyping us as people who are intolerant, people who are undemocratic, people who are easily get offended. So this I take strong exception to. No, one thing is the responses of the Dalits. And publicly, I think in the TV shows you have 2-3 Dalit scholars commenting on this controversy. But also there's public statements by Dalit politicians and also National SST Commission chairperson. And if you go into the details, Chandraban on NDTV clearly said there is no evidence to make this observation that the Dalits are SSTs and OBCs are the most corrupt. But he clearly said it is vulgar and undignified, and it's not based on any facts. And it is something that, I think that is enough for any sensible pro-Dalit intellectual to withdraw their statement. On that very moment, Nandy would have responded by saying that I'm sorry, Chandraban, I want to apologize, on the very show. But he didn't do that. So, but that did not happen. So he did not apologize. Then in terms of the other people, Mayawati and Paswan, so they responded quickly. And some Dalit activists from Rajasthan, they also responded, and they said we are going to file a case. And these are offensive, objectionable comments, and we will go to the police station. And they filed an FIR. And now this whole discussion is now around this issue. Basically saying that it is undemocratic, it is wrong to go to the police, to file the FIR. I am really, really surprised, and I could not understand what is wrong with this. I could not really understand what is wrong with this. In fact, people that I respect, people like Lawrence Liang, who have been writing law and other issues, they take objection to street protest, they take objection to going to the police station. I mean, these are the means that are available to Dalits on several occasions. And it doesn't really mean that they are going to arrest Nandy. I'm very sure that Nandy will not be arrested, even if he is. No, I'm saying just because some SCST, OBC politicians and organizations filed an FIR, I don't think police are going to easily arrest him. I am saying this because Nandy has already demonstrated his clout. The corporate media and the elite institutions and the academicians that signed his petition. So if the government looks at all this, he is not going to be arrested. Many times SCST people file these complaints, but no inquiry and no arrest, nothing happens. So Nandy it's not going to happen anything to Nandy. But I think my main kind of point is that what is wrong if they approach the police, if they file a complaint, if they drew a street demonstration. Are these forms democratic or not? I can understand your objection if they come to disrupt your meeting, if they come to attack Nandi, if they ransack your house. Have they done any of these things? And what is wrong with this protest? What is wrong with this protest? What is wrong with taking to legal recourse? And if you look at the Dalit opinion, there are different kinds of opinions. People who said you should not be arrested, people who said we will take him intellectually, and there are people who said we will file this complaint. So you have these different kinds of opinions. And why is it that these Dalit activists and Dalit politicians are singled out as people who are for censorship? Are you assuming that the moment FIR is given and Nandi is arrested, Nandi is not allowed to speak anywhere? Don't you know that the history of implementation of this act? And definitely people like Lawrence Liang will know how this has been implemented. I mean, these laws are there, but they are not implemented. Even in the worst cases, they are not implemented. So just to assume that somebody has approached the court itself is wrong. I think this is really surprising for me. And what is this act? This act has to be seen in a very different light. Verbal kind of abuse is also seen as offense, seen as violence. Different kinds of names, using language, calling names, caste names, and different kind of ways in treating them. So the act gives you a long list of various kinds of situations to say that these are all comes under SCST Act and offences under this act. So why don't you let the law take its own course? Examine whether what Nandi has said will amount to casteist remark. I mean, so instead of that, you say that the law is misused. So you are in fact kind of voicing the view that the Mulayam Singh and other people are doing it in UP, that this act itself is draconian and this law should be repealed. And in some sense, you are contributing to this whole debate that this law should be repealed. Somehow it's a law which is misused. One example and one kind of concluding statement. So the example is that in Andhra Pradesh, Andhra Jyoti, a Telugu newspaper, published a front page article saying that SC, ST, OBCs are the corrupt people and their organizations they are working with Congress and so on. Without naming anybody, they made this charge. And immediately, one of the representatives of a Dalit community from the Madiga Reservation Porata Samiti, Mr. Krishna Madiga, attacked Andhra Jyoti office and broke the window panes and created some tension and so some kind of violence in the office. And that led to a major kind of a discussion. Again, the freedom of press. The press can write anything and then why are you objecting and so on. And there are people who have taken different kind of views that Krishna Madiga could have written a rejoinder to this and why did he do this and so on and so on. Then later, the Andhra Jyoti employees, including its editor, were trying to protest against this attack on the office. Then they prepared an effigy of Krishna Madiga, who is a Dalit, who is a Madiga, and then effigy was burnt by the employees. But when it was when they wanted to burn it, they asked the editor to first lit the fire. And the editor did that. Then Krishna Madiga filed a complaint in police station saying that his effigy was burnt and so he was offended by this. And then the editor should be booked under SCST Act. And the editor, K. Srinivas of Andhra Jyoti, was booked under SCST Act and he was arrested, he was imprisoned. And he was a progressive person, democratic person. There was a lot of support for him. But still, when a particular Dalit leader invokes that law, he was arrested. So I will not resort to invoking the law. But if somebody resorts, if somebody feels extremely offended, and if some state government like the YSR government wants to use it, So how can you blame the entire Dalit community? How can you stereotype the entire Dalit community? Now, personally, I am not for Nandi's arrest. I want to expose Nandi. And in fact, I am really happy that if there are some Dalits, if there are OBCs, SCSTs who are generally following Nandi, this is one important kind of a situation where you can see his mindset and where you can see the mindset of all his friends. So this is a revealing moment for us. So this way of exposing Nandi is enough for me. And the fact that he did not apologize, it really tells a lot about Nandi. So much he talks about him, he is a Gandhian and so on, but he is not willing to apologize. He is not willing to unconditionally apologize. I mean, that's my demand. And the second point that I want to make is that Nandi's comments are objectionable, offensive. I don't know whether they are legally right or wrong, that I leave it to the police. But he should, I think, publicly apologize and stop this signature campaign and all these campaigns. And arrest is not going to happen. And all his supporters should actually stop this campaign of maligning the list, stereotyping the list as people who are intolerant, as people who are victims of brokers of victimhood, as I mean, what not. I mean, there were different kinds